إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا من سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. So we were discussing the different tactics which Quraysh were using to prevent Prophet ﷺ spreading the message. And there were many things they were using, and one of the things which we all discussed, and then the last where we were is that the last bit which they used was outright torture, the physical torture they were using. So in the last week we discussed about the torture of the Sahaba which they had to go through, and Bilal. We all have heard the stories of how they were torturing Bilal, because you have to realize that the early Muslims mostly were of the lower class, of the Mawlas and the slave class. Mawla, anybody can tell me what's the term Mawla means? We've discussed that few times now. Suleiman, you are not even listening. Do you know what Mawla is? It's okay. So it's freed slave. So the term Mawla, they used to use it for the freed slave. So they are slave class, but they have earned their freedom. They have paid off their debt or whatever. So that's what the Mawlas were. So those were the people who were actually mostly affected by the torture, the physical, because the noblemen of Quraysh, like Abu Bakr and Prophet ﷺ himself and Osman radiallahu anhu, who are amongst the earliest of the Muslims, they were protected somewhat by their own tribes. So nobody would dare go and harm them, because the tribe will take a revenge. So they will avenge them, and that's why they didn't want to go and do that. So that's why the lower class and the slaves, they were mostly the ones who were affected, like Yasir radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and Sumayya, the wife, and Ammar, the son, and Muhammad, who was the other son of Yasir and Sumayya radiallahu ta'ala anhum. Because they were basically killed, not just tortured, they were killed, brutally killed, to be honest. And these are the first shaheeds of Islam. So Yasir and Sumayya, so you remember, these are the ones who are the first one who died in Islam. There are people who have died before them, but they died the natural death. So they were the first shaheeds. Just a quick question. Do you guys want tea? You can arrange some tea. No? That's fine. We'll leave it. We'll leave tea today then. That's okay. I was a bit late, so we didn't get a chance to prepare that stuff. What about Prophet ﷺ himself? Was he physically tortured? What do you think? Yeah. And the answer is yes, he was. So there are a few things, and sometimes Allah protected him for the wisdom best known to Allah, but then other times Allah did not protect him. When Allah protected him, so once Abu Jahl, who's the biggest enemy of Islam, and Prophet ﷺ called him the Fir'aun of my ummah. So he was boasting to his companions that, look, Prophet ﷺ, Muhammad, when he comes to this time, if I see him, I will put my foot on his neck. So he was boasting, like when he's praying and goes into the sajda, I'm going to go and put my foot on his neck. So Prophet ﷺ, he was one of those very few people who would come and pray publicly in Kaaba. So he will come to the masjid and pray in front of the Kaaba. Other people, especially the lower class, the slave class and the mullahs, they were too scared to do that. Otherwise, the people would just basically kill them. They would beat them up and kill them. So they won't do that publicly. They will pray. They were praying privately in their own homes or when they were alone. But Prophet ﷺ used to do that openly, publicly, in front of the Kaaba. And he came and he started praying. So the people who were sitting with Abu Jahl, they said, well, he's here now. You were saying something. Why don't you go and do that? So he said, yeah, why not? So he went to actually put his foot on Prophet ﷺ's neck, and he came close to Prophet ﷺ, and then the people saw him walking backwards with his hands moving something away. And then he came back. And they said, what happened? You were saying, I'm going to put my foot on Muhammad's neck, but you are back and we saw you were pushing something and we didn't see anything. He said, well, I saw a big pit of fire between me and Muhammad, and I could hear the wings hovering on the fire, on top of the fire. And later on, Prophet ﷺ said that it was the fire brought by the angels, and it was the wings he was hearing was the wings of the angels. And if he wouldn't have stopped, if he would have taken one step more, they would have shredded him into bits. So the words Prophet ﷺ used in the hadith is khiraka, khirakan, khiraka, means he will be shredded into bits and pieces. So that's the time when Allah protected Prophet ﷺ. There are other times when, for the wisdom, many wisdoms, but Allah did not protect it. And we will discuss that, why this happened, maybe later on. And actually, this incident has been mentioned in the Quran. So the hadith which I've just mentioned in the last ayahs of Surah Alaq, Iqra bismi rabbikal ladhi khalaq. In fact, I can see there's a Quran, so why don't we quickly, it's always good to, I don't have my phone with me, and this one hasn't got the translation, but we'll so Allah has mentioned, referenced this incident in Iqra, that when he was boasting and he was saying, I'm going to do this and Allah protected you and you should go and yeah, here we go. So كلا إن الإنسان ليطغى أن رآه استغنى إن إلى ربك الرجع أرأيت الذي ينهى عبدا إذا صلى. عبدا إذا صلى is reference to Prophet ﷺ when he was praying. أرأيت إن كان على الهدى أو أمر بالتقوى أرأيت إن كذب وتولى ألم يعلم بأن الله يرى. And Allah is saying that I am watching what he is trying to do, and it's mentioned here is Abu Jahl. كلا لئن لم ينتهي لنفسا بالناصية. And then we would, nasiya is what's the English word? I don't know. The which you put to control the horses. In their nose they put this. What is it called?
Wait, you mean like a nose ring?
Yeah, it's not a nose ring. Used to be to control the animal. They would pierce their noses and put a rope, and they will go around like nowadays the horses have it in their mouth. Harnesses type thing. Yeah. So that's the thing is called nasiya. So we will hold on to him from the nasiya, because if somebody has got hold of to that rope which goes through the nose, the animal is in that control. No matter how powerful the animal is, that can't do anything. So I remember when I was a kid, when we used to bring those oxes and buffaloes for Qurbani in Eid al-Adha, we used to hold them from that rope, Otherwise, they would just drag us with them because they are so. And once you have got hold of that rope, then you can control them basically. So that's what nasiya is. So nasiyatin kazibatin khatiya falyad'u nadiya, and nadiya is the so Allah is saying to call whoever you want to call for your help. Sanadu zabaniya kalla la tuti' wasjud waqtarib, and Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to go ahead, don't worry, go ahead and do your sajda, and we will look after you. So that's now you can relate to whenever you read this. This is talking about this incident when Abu Jahl said and he wanted to do that, and Allah protected him through basically a miracle.
This is also the first surah of the Quran.
It's not the first.
Iqra based miracle.
It's not the whole surah.
Not the whole surah.
The first 5 verses were revealed. They were, that was the first revelation. You're right. So the first 5 verses are the first revelation. So Urwa ibn Zubair, once there's another hadith where Urwa ibn Zubair asked Abdullah ibn Amr al-As, who's another Sahabi. Urwa is not a Sahabi, he's one of the Tabi'ins. He's probably one of the most famous Tabi'ins. So Urwa ibn Zubair is the son of Zubair ibn al-Awwam, who is actually a cousin of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Allah, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned that every prophet has been given a Hawari, a special disciple. Hawari basically means a special disciple. So every prophet has been given a special disciple, and my disciple is Zubair ibn al-Awwam. So his son is Urwa. Zubair was married to Asma bint Abi Bakr, who was the daughter of Abu Bakr radhiyallahu anhu, the older sister of Aisha. And the son, there were 2 sons. One is Abdullah ibn Zubair, who is quite older than Urwa, and Abdullah ibn Zubair is a Sahabi. Urwa was not a Sahabi. He never saw Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was born after Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has passed away. So he's not a Sahabi, but he's a Tabi. So he was asking one of Sahaba, Abdullah ibn Amr al-As, that do you know what was the tell me about any torture that was done to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Was he tortured as well? Tell me anything about it. So Amr al-As told the story, which is Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayth. He's one of the filthiest of the Quraysh. He was one of the noblemen, but he was one of the most crudest of them. So there are lots of enemies.
Is this the story with the carpets?
No, not this one. But I mean, there were lots of enemies, and most of those enemies which had some, some dignity in them, Allah actually saved them. Like Umar, like Abu Sufyan. They were big enemies. Abu Sufyan actually fought many wars against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but he never stooped down to the vulgar activities. But those who were that kind of people who had no dignity in them, Allah didn't save them. Allah actually just wiped the earth from them. And Uqba ibn Mu'ayth is one of them. Like Abu Jahl is the other one of them, who are going and torturing innocent people who are like weak people who can't defend themselves, and they're torturing them. So those kind of people, Allah didn't save them. Allah didn't give them any hidayah, so they didn't convert it to the message. But the others, like Abu Sufyan, who was the leader of the opposition of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but he had some dignity in him. He never actually stooped down to those low tactics. So Allah saved him. He became a Sahabi, and he is the father of Umayyad dynasty. So Umayyad dynasty started from Abu Sufyan. So Abu Sufyan and his progeny is the Umayyad dynasty, which is the longest Muslim dynasty after the Khilafah. Uqba ibn Mu'ayt, what he did, Prophet ﷺ went to Sajda, he stood up, so he came, sneaked behind him, put his shawl around the neck of Prophet ﷺ and started choking him to a point where he couldn't breathe. And there were lots of Muslims who could see that, but they were all like Abdullah ibn Masud and Bilal and other people. They couldn't come and save him, so they could just see him. They couldn't come and save him. So somebody went and told Abu Bakr radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu that your companion is being tortured like this. So Abu Bakr came running and he started beating Uqba from behind to make him let go. And then Abu Bakr said, "Antaqtuluna rajulun an yaqulu Rabbi Allah," that are you going to kill this man just because he's saying that Allah is my Rabb? And this is mentioned in Quran. So this phrase of Abu Bakr radhiyallahu anhu saying this is actually mentioned in Quran. So this is now an ayah in the Quran. So Allah has referenced that in the Quran. So he saved Prophet ﷺ in that one. Then there is another story which is narrated by Ibn Masud, who is one of the Mawlas. He's one of the earliest of the scholars. That once Prophet ﷺ was praying in front of Makkah, in front of Kaaba, and Abu Jahl came and he said, he gave a dare that there was a camel who was sacrificed a day ago. So he said, who amongst you can go and get all the entrails and the intestines of that dead animal and bring and put it on Muhammad. So that decomposing animal's entrails. So again, Uqba ibn Mu'ayt is that lowly person who said, I'll do that. I'm going to go and do that. So he went, and you have to remember, he's a nobleman who's probably wearing all his nice clothes and everything, but he's prepared in the animosity of Prophet ﷺ to go all the way, grab that filth and bring up just to put it on Prophet ﷺ. So he went, he came back and put it on Prophet ﷺ, and it was so heavy, all that rubbish, that he couldn't get up from the sajda. So he was kind of under the weight of that. And then somebody went and told Fatima radhiyallahu ta'ala anha, who was a little girl at the time, and she came running and tried to pull those entrails off Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then with the help of Fatima radhiyallahu ta'ala anha, he managed to get up. And as soon as he got up, he was really angry, and he started saying, Allahumma alayka ya Abu Jahl, Allahumma alayka ya Abu Jahl, Allahumma alayka ya Abu Jahl, Allahumma, and he named all those people 3 times, each one of them, that Allah took care of them, Allah take care of them, Allah take care of them for me. And as soon as they saw him in that manner, it's been narrated that their faces become completely pale, their blood drained from their faces, and they knew that they are not going to be saved anymore. So they knew the Prophet ﷺ said it, and now we are in trouble. So they actually believed it in that. And all 7 of them, there were 7 standing there, and Prophet ﷺ named by name made dua against them, and all 7 of them were killed in Badr. The first time Muslim met the Quraysh after the Hijrah, and all 7 of them, Allah took care of them. So they were all dead in the Battle of Badr. And then the famous assassination attempt, slowly and surely they kept on increasing the animosity and the torture, and to a point where they started thinking, okay, we can't really carry on like this, so we will kill Prophet ﷺ, and they tried to do that. Obviously Allah saved him, and on the night of Hijrah, when they all came to try and assassinate Prophet ﷺ, but Allah made gave another kind of miracle to Prophet ﷺ, that he walked right in the middle of them and they couldn't even see him. And he took sand and put on each of them on their head, and they didn't knew. And Allah just took him out without any harm. So that's all there are many more incidences as well, but we can't really put every one of them. But these are some of the incidences where the Prophet ﷺ was tortured physically.
There was one time when Prophet ﷺ was tortured in a mosque, in the masjid, but also I think Abu Bakr was also beaten up as well.
Yeah, once Abu Bakr was beaten up as well. Yeah, so he said something and that's actually, we will come to that later on, but this was the time when he actually withdrew the protection. So his tribe withdrew the protection, and then he went out and he saw something and he said something, and because he had no protection from his tribe anymore, so they started beating him up. But that's at the very end, where just before the hijrah. But that wasn't in relation to Prophet ﷺ. It wasn't to save him or anything. It was just. But that's another story. Yeah. But all the Sahaba were tortured. Some of them were not. I mean, they were saved because of their relationship with, like Osman. Everybody loved him. So Osman radiallahu anhu. Even at the time of Hudaybiyah, when Prophet ﷺ had to send somebody to as a delegation to discuss the terms with the Quraysh. Umar radiallahu anhu said that, Quraysh don't like me, but they like Usman, so why don't we send Usman? So Usman is one of them which never really got tortured, and Umar radiallahu anhu was another one who never got tortured. All of the other Sahaba, all the Muslims, they kind of, when they migrated secretly. But Umar was the one who came out and went to Makkah and said, O Quraysh, I am Umar. I am going to be migrated tomorrow at this time. So if anyone who wants their mother to be the childless or their wives to be husbandless, come and meet me. And nobody took him on his challenge. So he announced publicly that I'm going to leave. If you want to come and stop me, please do. But nobody. So they were all scared of him. So nobody came. So he's one of those who were not really tortured. Like Hamza again, he was the really strong man. So nobody dared torture him. But others who they could.
Who did he save, Hamza alayhi salam? He was.
Hamza radiallahu
He was it Abu Jahl who his men insulted some woman or something?
No, it was Prophet ﷺ. So Abu Jahl, that's the story of his accepting Islam, and we will discuss that in more detail. But so Abu Jahl was insulted Prophet ﷺ really badly one day, and then Hamza came back from the hunting expedition, and the women of Banu Hashim, they said, have you got no shame? One of your tribesmen being insulted by Banu Makhzum so badly that we can't really go out and show our faces to other people because we have been insulted so much. And he said, okay, is that the case? So he took his bow, went to Abu Jahl, smacked him on his head and opened his head up and said, okay, I'm a Muslim as well. What can you do? So he actually accepted Islam not really from his heart, just as in anger, as a revenge thing. Okay, you wanted to insult somebody? Okay, come on, insult me. I'm a Muslim now as well. But then later on he realized, oh, what have I done? I don't want to be a Muslim, but I've said in front of everybody I'm a Muslim now. So he went to Prophet ﷺ, and then slowly and gradually, actually Islam entered into his heart, and he became what he became. He's Sayyid al-Shuhada. He's the leader of all the Shuhada. But initially, his initial accepting Islam was just in anger.
It's very common, isn't it? This
Yeah.
bit?
Yeah.
You know, any group of people being insulted because of their clan, kinship, or tribe, or
Yeah.
brotherly, or whatever
Yeah.
you want to call it.
Yeah.
Someone will come along and say, "Hang on a minute."
Yeah. So
we may differ in other ways, but when you're
yeah.
attacking all of us, then
Yeah.
we can. We'll,
So that's his story. Inshallah, we will discuss that in more.
What do you mean by in anger though? I don't understand.
He was angry that his nephew was insulted. So that was the anger.
Yeah, but why would he say he's Muslim?
Because he wasn't a Muslim, but he was so angry he just wanted to say, okay, what can you do? I'm a Muslim as well. Just to cause a point.
he's a brave man.
Yeah. What are the wisdoms in all these torture and hardship which Prophet ﷺ had to endure? One of them is that all prophets had suffered these hardships. Prophet ﷺ is not the one, is not the only one. Musa alayhi salam, we know, even if we go even before that, Nuh alayhi salam, he preached for 950 years and only 8 people accepted Islam. So like handful, very few people accepted Islam, and they really ridiculed him when he was building ship. We all know the story. They started using it as place to relieve themselves. So anyone who needed to go to urinate or so they will go and do that in his ark just to mock him. And then Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was thrown into the pit of fire.
What did alayhi salam do after 950 years?
What did he do?
Did he retaliate anyway?
No, he made dua to Allah that Allah, I've done everything and I can't really make them go on the right path. So Allah sent punishment. The flood came.
Okay.
And only those were saved who were on the right path. The rest were all drowned.
Okay.
So Allah wiped the earth clean with all those people. Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was thrown into the fire. We all know the story. Musa alayhi salam, he had to, as a kid, as soon as he was born, Pharaoh was killing all those little children of Bani Israel. So his mother has to throw him into Nile, and he was actually then raised up in the palace itself. And then when he grew up, he had to leave and run away from Egypt and he stayed 40-50 years in Madian. And then he came back, and then he had to run away again, and Pharaoh tried to chase him. So all of those things, so all those hardships, they all have to go through that. Isa alayhi salam, they tried to crucify him in the end. So all the prophets had to go through them. There are prophets who were actually literally killed. So one of the prophets who went and tried to save himself and hide in a tree, and they came and they cut the tree in half, and he got cut in half in the tree himself. So there are lots of stories. So every prophet had to endure all these hardships. So he was not the first one, because Allah wanted to tell us that even the prophets won't be given anything on the plate. So you have to work hard for it. So to get to Jannah, we can't even earn Jannah after all these hardships. Even the prophets can't claim that they have earned Jannah. What we can claim is that we have earned the mercy of Allah. Nobody will go into Jannah because they have earned it. So and there's a hadith that Rasul said nobody will enter Jannah for their deeds, but they will enter the Jannah because of the rahmah of Allah's rahmah, Allah's mercy. And the Sahaba, they asked him, is it you, Prophet ﷺ, you as well? And he said, yes, me as well. So even the prophets, they won't get into Jannah because they have earned it. And imagine the ni'mah of having an eyesight. Ask people who are blind, what a blessing is having just two working eyes. And we can't even claim that we have done enough to say, okay, we earned our eyes. let alone the rest of the health and the air and the oxygen, which we don't have to pay for any oxygen. Imagine you have to go and buy oxygen to live every day. So Allah's blessings are just too enormous. And even if we live up to 100 years and we have done every good thing, that can't be the cost of eternity, because the life in the hereafter is the life of eternity, which will never end. So nothing will be able to say, okay, you have earned eternity. If you have done the good work for eternity, then you can earn the good place to live in for eternity. But we can't do that. What are we going to live for? 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 years? That's compared to an eternity is nothing. Doesn't even come close to zero. So that's why nobody will enter Jannah because they have earned it. Everybody will enter Jannah because of the mercy of Allah. So after all these hardship, we hope that we have earned the mercy of Allah. We can never say that we have earned our place in Jannah, but hopefully we will have earned the mercy of Allah. And this life, Allah, again, that's the second thing Allah wants to tell us, that this life is not to live, just to live a comfortable life. Allah hasn't created us to live a comfortable life. It doesn't matter that if we are living comfortable life, it's something wrong. But that's not the purpose of our creation. This life is a life of test, or a period of test. So Allah has sent us here to test us what we are going to do, which will determine our results in the Day of Judgment. So we have to consider that this is not a place to live comfortable life and just earn dunya and make sure that you have got all the luxury. We are here as a test. So the test will come as a hardship. So all these hardship is basically Allah is testing us. What are we going to do? Are we going to remain istiqama? Are we going to have istiqama? Are we going to be steadfast on our deen or not? And little irritations nowadays we will have. Somebody has said something while we are going on the street and we feel, oh, we are really bad in Islamophobia and all of that. I mean, compared to what the early Muslims have to suffer, we can't even compare it. So that's something for us as well. So all those hardships which they have to go through is a role model for us. So we can look back and say, well, they suffered so much and they were even better in their faith. They were getting even stronger in our faith. So why should we feel any different? So it shouldn't make our faith more stronger when something happened like this. It should make us feel more stronger, more firm on our faith rather than the other way around. So that's a role model for us as well. And all the hardships are there to earn the mercy of Allah, as we discussed, ease. And then Allah has said that Allah has paired the ease with hardship. Inna Allah ma'al usri yusran. So ma'al usri yusra, ma'a means it's together with usr and yusra, they are together. So there is no ease without hardship. So Allah has paired the hardship with ease. So when you will get hardship, you will get ease after that. So it's in the Quran. So that's the Sunnah of Allah. And also, as we discussed, that to show the Muslims as a role model, for us that hardship is something to reflect upon. So if we feel bad that we are having some sort of persecution, well, we can't even call it a persecution, we can only call it an irritation, what we face, to be honest. So that all these stories will give us will make our faith stronger. This is something to reflect back on.
So we shouldn't worry too much about Islamophobia and Conservative Party.
Well, to be honest, I mean, we keep talking about it, and I totally agree. To be honest, if you talk about what's happening in the Muslim countries, what happens to Shias and Sunnis, because you are Sunni, people come and they kill you just because you are Shia or you are Sunni. I'm not talking about the non-Muslims. I'm talking about the Muslims. or people come and they kill you because you are not from their Hanafi or whatever. And what's happening in Syria? They're killing Muslims. They're not killing non-Muslims. What's happened in Iraq? All these ISIS and Daesh or whatever we call them, they are not killing any non-Muslims. They keep talking about Khilafah and who are they killing? They are killing Muslims. They're not killing any non-Muslims. So, I mean, what to talk about that? Maybe we have to keep our house in order first, and then we can say anything to anybody else. Saying that, we should still strive to make things better for us. It doesn't mean that we should sit on our hands and say, oh, okay, that doesn't matter, we don't do anything. No, that's not what I'm trying to say here. But we should not feel uneasy or bad about it. We should strive towards it, and we should try to make things better. So there shouldn't be any Islamophobia. And if there is any Islamophobia, then it's our job to fight that. But that should not make us depressed or go into our shell. It was a young man from Banu Makhzum whose house was just behind Safa, the Mount Safa. So why his house?
If they met in like, wasn't it that in like the middle or the end of the day they would all come and socialize in the Kaaba or something?
Yeah.
And if they did that every day, it would look suspicious. So they did it in a house, and maybe he was well liked, so it wouldn't be suspicious, and they didn't know he was Muslim. So
I mean, yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, you haven't explained it fully, but yes, that's one of the reasons. That if this house is outside Makkah or somewhere else, and there are 40 people going and coming out, everybody would know something's happening there. So for the traffic, so you have to understand that Makkah is not a big city. So there are only few hundred, maybe 1,000 people or so. So if 40 of them goes every day somewhere and comes out from a house, everybody would notice that. So his Al-Arqam's house is just near Makkah, just behind the Mount Safa. And everybody, this was their habit, that everybody will be going in the afternoon once they have finished their work. They will go and they will socialize in Kaaba. So they will go and do their tawafs and sit around the Kaaba and have a chat, and then they will go home. So if the house is just there and 40 people are coming anyway to do tawaf and socialize in Kaaba. So nobody would notice that why they are coming towards the center of the Makkah where the Kaaba is. So that's one of the reasons. The other reason is that he was from Banu Makhzum. And who's the famous person from Banu Makhzum? Anybody? Abu Jahl. And they have got big rivalry with Banu Hashim. So nobody would kind of suspect that Banu Makhzum is helping Banu Hashim, because Prophet ﷺ is from Banu Hashim. So that was one of the reasons. The other thing is that there are about 40 people now by that time, and we can guess that his house was big enough to cater for 40 people. If somebody has got a very small house, then 40 people won't be able to gather there. So we can only imagine that he was a young man. So nobody would have imagined that it's a young man like 15, 16, 17 years old would be doing something so courageous. So that was another reason. And Al-Arqam was the one where a lot of Sahaba has accepted Islam, and we all heard of the story of Umar radiallahu anhu, that how he accepted Islam, and he was walking to go and kill Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and somebody met him and said, have you noticed that your own sister, do you know that your own sister is a Muslim? So why don't you go and sort your own house first before you do anything else? So he was really angry, went to see the sister, and I'm not going to go into the more detail of the story, but then he saw the sister, and then his heart changed and he read Quran. So he said, okay, I'm going to go and accept Islam. So he walked back. And where did he go and accepted Islam? Darul Arqam. So that was Arqam's house. So that's where he went and saw.
Wait, when he went to see his sister, was he angry or was he surprised, like happy surprised?
No, he was angry.
Angry, then how did he say anything about that?
Okay. Okay, let's quickly do the story, so we'll finish on that one. So Umar Razil Talana was, there are lots of other reasons as well, but this is one of them. That's kind of the last bit. So Umar Razil Talana was walking, somebody said, Prophet ﷺ is making a lot of problems, so can anybody basically kill him, assassinate him? And he was one of the brave men of Quraysh, so he was very brave, Umar Radhiyallahu anhu. He said, I'll do it. So he took his sword, started walking, I'll go and do it right now. And somebody met him on his way, and he said, well, do you know your sister is a Muslim as well? So why don't you go and sort your own house first before you go and kill Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? So he said, okay, I'm going to do that. So he went to his sister's house, and his sister was reading Quran, and he knocked on the door. And when the sister heard that Umar is here, and she knew that he will be very angry, so she basically put the Quran and kind of put her skirt over it. She basically kind of sat on and put in the skirt to try and hide the Quran from him. So he walked in and he said, do you know, I've heard you reading Quran, so just tell me. And there was one of the Sahabi, Khabab ibn al-Arath, who was in the house at the time, who was one of the slaves, and he was teaching her how to read the Quran. He was teaching her the Quran at the time. And Umar got really angry, and he first hit Khabab ibn al-Arath, and then he hit his sister, and she started bleeding. And when he did that, the sister got angry as well, and she said, yes, I'm a Muslim, kill me if you want to kill me, I'm not going to leave Islam. But as soon as he saw her bleeding, his heart melted. So he had an inner soft heart with a very hard exterior, but he had a soft heart, and we see that all the time in Seerah. And he said, well, okay, just show me what you were reading. And she said, no, I'm not going to show you, you are filthy. If you want to read Quran, you have to go and take ghusl first before you can touch the Quran and read it. So he went and he took the ghusl and read the Quran, and that changed his heart. And he went to see the Prophet ﷺ and accepted Islam. Okay?
The Quran wasn't full at that time, obviously.
Oh, no, obviously. So Quran kept on coming till the very end. So in Medina. So it was the piece, one part of the Quran they were teaching. So as soon as the Quran was revealed, Prophet ﷺ was teaching it to the Sahaba. So as soon as there is a revelation used to come, he would go and teach it to the Sahaba, and they would memorize it. And then the next thing will come and they will memorize it, and some of them will write it. So there was some Katibine Wahi, which we call. So there was some of the ones who could write. So they would write on different things. So on skins and
Was being able to write a big thing?
yeah, it was a big thing at that time. So
How did they record anything then?
how did they record it? They didn't. So they did. Quraysh and Makkah, they didn't have any libraries, any books, any written material, nothing.
They remember all of their lineages. Like
Yeah. So they just remember.
So how?
Remember.
Okay.
So oral tradition. So the father will teach their kids the lineage, and then they will teach their kids their lineage, and they will teach their kids the lineage. So it was all oral traditions.
Okay.
So this was the Darul Arqam. So we will, I had a little bit more prepared, but I think because it's already 9 o'clock, so we will stop here, inshallah, and we will carry on from next time. Any questions?
So you're going to answer the question. Remember you said you're going to come back and finish something that you you asked.
Yeah, I think we did.
Which one was that? Can't remember now.
I don't think I asked him. I think you might have answered it already. So
Yeah, I think
We probably did.
Okay.
No, yes.
Okay.
probably
Okay, inshallah. May Allah protect us after leaving here and accept this effort and make us put this in our life. Jazakumullah khair. And the computer is hanged.